think I'm live. Hope I'm live. Hey guys, it's Lady Raven, the Wild Witch. And so here we are today, coming to you live from my office with the broken AC. As you can see, I got a fan going, but it's not really working. We're going to talk today about Beltane. So this is the festival that is going to be coming up in the next, on May 1st, which is this coming weekend. So let's talk a little bit about what the history of Beltane is, what it symbolizes, and what kind of energy it is that we are dealing with, right? So Beltane is a Gaelic festival, and it's considered one of the fire festivals. And it came from, the name Beltane comes from the fires of Bel, which is a Gaelic deity that the fires used to honor. And this was when they did this at May Day, Beltane, two names that you're probably familiar with. They would create these fires and they would jump over the fire and they would run cattle between the fire to basically bring fertility for the next year. So Beltane generally was timed at the very middle of spring. So it was kind of always the halfway point between the equinox and the midsummer. So this is hey Trisha, this is the midpoint that Beltane was created was created in. So getting fertility was the primary thing, but being a fire festival, it also works on the idea of purification, right? To removing all of the things that have that are in the way of creation, basically. So, and those are the things that stand in the way of you being able to be fertile, to create, to have more crops and more cattle and more people and more, all of those things. So it's a purification festival and it's a fertility festival. Typically in witchcraft, this is when we celebrate basically the marriage of our divine masculine and divine feminine. And this is when they consummate their marriage in witchcraft lore. So that means that this is the time that, in ancient times, you would have a high priest and a high priestess having sex on the altar to represent the coming together of those two polarities, right? Obviously, we don't do that today. But the idea of, physical connection and having sex in Beltane is a very ancient tradition. There's a lot of Beltane festivals that you can go to a lot of times that are very much into, they're very poly, people go from tent to tent, just kind of, having fun with people. And those are the kinds of themes that you're looking at Beltane. So when we look at all of that, so let's look at how can we take all of this energy that we have and bring that into your life. So we're talking about the coming together of male and female. What happens when male and female comes together? That is creation, right? New things are born, new things are created. And this is not just for people. Think about that when it comes to just about everything in nature. Bring together male and female, and voila, you have creation started. This is also the time of the year, just like Samhain, where the veil is at its thinnest. So at Samhain, when the veil is really thin, we look to the lower worlds, right? We're going to look to our ancestors. We're going to look to those who have come before us. We're going to look to Anubis and Persephone and all the underworld deities, because that is the energy that we're dealing with. It's the time before the earth goes into hibernation. And so this is basically a time that we're dealing with all of the things that are hidden in the lower realms. So when you come into Beltane, which is the counterpoint of that festival, it is really, I would say, the second most important festival of the year. I mean, they're all important, but Samhain being the first, Beltane would be the second one, because it also is a veil Sabbat. It's when the veil is at its thinnest. But during this time, we look to the upper realms. So this is a lot of times why you see fairies and you see, some nature spirits and you see elementals and all of that lore that goes around with late spring, early summer, of all of these light spirits hanging around, are basically to celebrate the fact that the veil is at its thinnest at Beltane once again. So some of the things that you can do to celebrate Beltane is, let's talk about the fertility first, right? So let's say if you're trying to get pregnant, that's the obvious, right? You could do a ceremony to try to get pregnant. One of my favorite things to do, or favorite recommendations, not favorite things to do, because obviously I don't want to be pregnant, but for people who do want to be pregnant, one of my favorite recommendations is for you to create a little pregnancy spell bottle, or a fertility spell bottle, or fertility sachet, put it underneath your bed. and then have sex on top of that bed during Beltane. You would bring in sacred space all around you. You would ask the gods for assistance, ask the spirits for assistance, tell them you want to be pregnant. And then you and your husband or you and your partner would basically consummate the relationship in sacred ceremony, and also with those herbs sitting underneath your bed to give you a bigger chance of getting pregnant. So that's one way you can use that. But another way you can use it, herbs are really big during the Sabbath. So anything that you're going to basically burn, any herbs that you use, flowers, all of that is huge during the Sabbath. So if you are trying to, this is a great time to do spells that are going to involve using herbs and using any kind of burning. So if you want to blend a special incense for the Sabbath, that's appropriate. If you want to, in the Sabbath, if you want to connect to something that you're doing in your life now, maybe a new project that may have not been going very well and you want to improve it, you can do that for your Beltane celebration. You can create an herbal mix, and maybe you can write the name of that project in the piece of paper. You can put the herbs inside of it, roll it up, and burn all of that together in order to bring more energy. You're pushing in that fire energy into what you're trying to do, right? That's another way to celebrate Beltane. You can also celebrate by connecting with your spirit guides. So if you're trying to reach out to the other side and connect with specific deities or specific spirit guides, this is just like at Samhain. This is the perfect time of the year to do that. Even though we're looking to the upper realms, you can connect with lower world deities the same way that at Samhain, even though we're looking to the lower realms, you can connect with upper realm deities. So it doesn't really matter. As long as you're reaching out to something on the other side, you can definitely connect during this time. Another time that would be very popular, another thing that would be very popular for purification, right? This is the time to release things that no longer serve you. So what are the things that are standing in the way of you moving forward in a positive direction? What are the things that are keeping you from improving your life, from getting your goals to manifest the way you want them to? So there's a lot of different things that maybe need to be cleansed and released for you to be able to move forward. So a great way that you can do a ceremony for that is you can take all of those things that you want to release and charge a candle with it, put all of it into the candle, and then you can scribe your name on the candle, and then you would light it, and then as the candle burns, it's releasing all of those things that you don't want anymore. Sometimes you can even write them down on a piece of paper, each one, and burn it from that candle flame. That's another way that you can do it as well. But this is a great time to use fire magic of any kind. Elemental fire is very big during this Sabbath, to really highlight the differences between the polarities of male and female, right? And to bring them together in a harmonious way. So in this way too, if you have a relationship that maybe needs work, that's not going so great, and you want to do some work to make it better, this is a time you can do that as well. As long as the relationship that we're talking about is between opposite sex. Generally, you're looking at a more romantic relationship, but even friendships can be with that. And if your partner is not the opposite sex, it doesn't really matter all that much, because just focus on the energy of bringing two people together, regardless of gender, to be able to connect into something brand new that's going to bring creation into your life. Hey, Flavia. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use that energy. So the idea of bringing people together to create something new out of that is something that is very much ingrained in Beltane. There's a special blend, and we actually make it on Raven Moonlight Botanicals. If you're interested, it's perfect for Beltane. It's called the 9 Wood Sacred Blend. And this is a blend of 9 different types of wood. And they are very typical of Beltane time, where you would take some of that, you would make your wishes for the fertility that you want or for anything else, and you would toss it into the flame and ask for your wish to be to come true or to be met. So there's a lot of different things that you can do like that during Beltane. One of the traditional things was the maypole, right? And so if you think about what the maypole represents, you have a maypole and you have the ribbons all coming around it, and you have people that are dancing, waving that ribbon around. Eventually that ribbon woven around the maypole is going to form a sheath around that maypole. So it also represents the consummation of male and female kind of coming together and doing that. So that is why a lot of times one of the things that I love to do for Beltane, if I have a really big long-term project going on that I want to start working on, and I know know this is going to be more than just a couple of months. Maybe it's going to be a year in the making, maybe something that's big. What I like to do is I go outside and I'll find a tree branch. And I generally prefer either maple or oak. And then you're going to ask the tree for permission if you can have the branch. Even if the branch is laying on the ground, you still ask. That is not a part of you. That is a part of Mother Earth, and it is a part of that tree. So we always work in relationship with the world around us. So you walk in and you say, hey, could I have this for my Beltane ceremony? If they say yes, then you bring that branch home. And then what I like to do is I like to tie, I pick 3 different color ribbons, whatever color works for you. You can use colors that are going to represent fertility, or you can use colors that represent the things that you're trying to bring into your project, right? So for example, for me this year, I'm going to create a one for fertility in the business, right? In my business, because we've been kind of on a slow time because the economy is kind of uncertain right now, and that always affects us. So what I'm going to use when I do that is I'm going to use the green, which is going to represent abundance, fertility, increase, all of that. I'm going to use yellow, which is the road opening color, to remove any obstacles in the way that stand in the way of us moving things together. And then I maybe use some white, which can be a stand-in color for any other color. It represents purity, purification, all of that. But you can also use an orange color, which would be representative of creativity, of bringing something that is manifesting something that is in your mind, and then taking that and creating something tangible and physical from it. So you would take this stick, you would tie all the ribbons on the very top of it. So you have one stick with the ribbons tied. And then on a piece of paper, you're going to write down what it is that what your project is about, and what the ribbons represent, and everything that you're looking to get out of Beltane. And during your Beltane ceremony, what you would do then is you would start weaving those cords or those ribbons around the branch. And when you get about a third of the way in, what I do is I fold a piece of paper and I roll it up really, really tight, and I put it in there, and then I braid the paper into the wand. And then once you finish all of the braiding, if you want to, you can decorate it. I like to put a little crystal on the top of it to help it to, just boost the energy that I'm working with there. And this is something that you create this tool during Beltane. And anytime that you're sitting down next to your project, that you're doing something that is related to your project, you can then have that tool ready next to you to bring all of those things, all of the energy that you asked for to come into you from Beltane. So there's a lot of really fantastic things that you can do with that energy. That creating of a maple, of a very smaller version of a maple, to create a wand that you can use throughout the year, for me, is probably one of my absolute most favorite things to do at Beltane, because it brings in the nostalgia, right, of the big traditional rituals with the dancers and the maypole and the pretty dresses and the ribbons in the hair. And then on top, so I get to bring that to myself without having to have everybody around me to do it. The other thing you can do when you're weaving that is you can add different herbs. Normally flower petals are really good. If you have whole leaves, they're really good for you to add. If you have them fresh or dried, it doesn't matter. You can just add them. I've had people even glue the herbs to the stick and then braid over it. So they would glue the herbs either in the beginning, let it dry a little bit, and then braid on top of that in order to make that happen. And you can add charms. You can add anything to it. Keep in mind, the more energy that you put into it, the more energy that it's going to have. So if you want a really powerful tool, then you're going to spend a lot of time crafting it and creating it in ceremony during Beltane. And then the other thing that I like to do once I've created that is I like to leave it out overnight, just to be out in the environment, outside in the moonlight. Sometimes I'll put it in a plastic baggie with something on top of it so it doesn't blow away. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that, but that is a great way for you to tap into everything that Beltane brings to the table just for yourself. So there's a lot of really wonderful energy for you to work with Beltane during this time. It is considered a major festival. And like I said before, it is originally of Gaelic descent, basically. But there are other parts of the world that celebrate similar festivals to Beltane. Not necessarily the same one, the Gaelic festival, but they do celebrate similar different things to it. So this is a great way for you to do it. Another thing that you can do is you can leave offerings for your spirit helpers during Beltane, because this is a time, like I said, the veil is at its thinnest, right? So it's going to be really easy for you to connect and hear, for them to hear you and for you to hear them, to kind of move that back and forth. So that's going to be great way to reach out and connect in that way. You can do divination. You can do scrying, whereas at Samhain, crystal ball scrying and black mirror scrying is really big. One of the big things you can do at Beltane is fire scrying. So you light your bonfire and then you basically sit there and scry through the fire. So there's a lot of really positive things that you can use this energy for and incorporate into your life. Keep in mind, we're basically at the very tail end of spring, right? This is going to basically mark the close of spring and the beginning of the beginning of summer, basically, right? Summer doesn't officially start until the 21st of June at midsummer. But it's going to be, this is the energy that we're moving towards already. Beltane kind of marks that in-between point of when we're out of spring and the planting season closes. And now we're moving into the season of the year where we're going to roll up our sleeves and do the work and everything that we planted back in the spring. So if you think about it in terms of, the year, we've talked about this multiple times in different lives, but I don't know who's been to what live, so I'm going to bring it up again. If you look at the way the year works, if you did your planning in the winter, right, for what it is that you're going to work on this summer or this year, what's your big project? And I always recommend people to have one big project for the year that you're working on. So over the winter time, the earth is hibernating. We're planning, right? And then you have Imbolc comes in. The earth is beginning to wake up from hibernation. This is a time to purify. It's a time to basically get ready to move into the mental component of planning, of getting your ducks in a row in that regard, and start moving into the physical component of actually doing the thing that you want to do. So then that starts at Imbolc, and then you move forward into Ostara, and Ostara marks the beginning of the planting season. This is where you're going to begin to lay the groundwork for your project that you've been wanting to work on, right? So you have from Ostara to May to Beltane to lay that groundwork, lay that foundation. So if your project is, let's say, to start a new business, maybe you decided and you came up with what it is that you wanted your business to do in the spring, in the winter. And then as you moved into Imbolc, you decided, okay, now I have a clear idea. Maybe you did some market research. You kind of finalized all of that. You removed all of the other things from your life that are causing you to waste time on stupid things that you don't need, so that you can actually start focusing directly on your project. And then comes Ostara, right? And now here's where you're going to start laying your foundation, which means you're going to start taking pictures of your products to put it online. You're going to start taking, maybe posting your products on your website that you're going to be selling. This is where you're going to start basically putting in the foundation of that project, right? So Beltane comes in where all of that work should be done, and it's going to mark the beginning of the actual doing. So now you've got your foundation set up, you've got your website design, you've got all of that done. Beltane comes into place. Now is the time to start working. So you're going to start networking. You're going to start advertising your product. You're going to start receiving orders and filling orders. And your goal is to start growing that business, because that's what we're doing over the summer, right? Things are growing and growing and growing. So then you're going to have from Beltane, you start working on it. And this midsummer should be at the height of your effort. And it's kind of like I said before, our society is a little bit different, because we, normally the time that the earth is doing the most amount of work is the time that we are not working. We love to take vacations in the summer, but the summer is our most productive time. So basically during this time, we are going to be basically working towards our business. So you're going to move past that. The summer solstice should be the height of it. This is where you're energized and you're going out and you're doing the thing, and you're, maybe you've got 10 irons in the fire. You're basically working your plan. And then you move into Llamas, which is going to basically be the first harvest festival. And in this festival, you should start seeing some of the fruits of your labor. So sticking with the example that we used before, where you start your business, what should you be seeing at Llamas? So at Llamas maybe is where you should be noticing that now I've paid off all my start off expenses. I've already got all of my material placed to continue the business, right? So I'm starting to see success with the business that I have. If you're not, you still have from Llamas to Mabon on September the 21st, which is the fall equinox, which is going to be our second harvest festival, which is the big one. This is the mother lode, right? So this should be, it's the pagan Thanksgiving. This should be when everything that you've planted for is beginning to bear fruit. So if you are not seeing significant amounts of profit, if you're not seeing customers coming back, if you're not seeing customers raving about your product, if you're not seeing all of those things by then you probably did not do everything that you needed to do in the months before. Because there is a component of luck, obviously, to start a business, but there's also a component of you putting your nose to the grindstone, which is the largest component in actually doing the work. So then when you get into Mabon, you should be harvesting the bulk of your work, right? So then you move past Mabon to the third harvest festival, which is Samhain. And this is when we're going to look to the lower realms. This is what we're going to look to the past and evaluate where we came from. So at Samhain is the end of the planting season. I mean, it's the end of the harvest season. So the bulk of your harvest for the year should have come in by now. And if it didn't, at Samhain is the time that you start looking back and going, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? What did I maybe not do too much of? What are some of the things that I did too much of and they didn't bear any fruit? So this is the time of evaluating and looking back and still making a few changes that you can still make to move into the winter. So as you move into the winter, now, if you're sticking with our example, if you're a retail business owner, obviously that's going to be super busy for you in the winter. So maybe you would count your harvest closer to the holidays as opposed to right there. But this should be, your first year should be bringing you some rewards already. And then you move into the winter. What are you going to do in the winter? You're going to plan. What am I going to do next year with this business? Am I going to launch any new product? Am I going to partner with anybody else? Am I going to seek a new market? What are the things I'm going to do? So this is the time of the year where you look back at everything you did, what worked, what didn't work. You plan it all out and you repeat the process in bulk and you get started again. So Beltane plays that critical role in that it is the end of the setting up your foundation for all the work you're going to do during the summer. So Beltane is a time when you should have done all of the initial, if you think about what happens in Beltane, if you're a farmer, it's the end of the planting season. You've planted everything you're going to grow in the summer. Everything should be in the ground. If you didn't get anything planted by Beltane, it's too late at this point. It's too late to start growing something new. So a lot of times farmers aim to have the first week of May be the deadline for them to get all their crops into the ground. So this is what, this is our deadline to lay the foundation. And then Beltane is going to mark the beginning of the work. What is the farmer going to do over the summer? He's going to water it. He's going to check for pesticides. He's going to make sure that the temperature is good. He's going to make sure that it's not too hot, that it's not too cold. He's going to keep an eye on fungus. He's going to keep an eye on animals coming in and eating his crops. There's a lot of work that goes on during the summer. So if you ever talk to a farmer, they don't go on vacation in the summer. That's their work time. They go to vacation in December because that's their downtime. And that is basically the way that the earth works as a whole. Because when you move into the wintertime, what is the earth doing? It's hibernating. It's asleep. You're not, if you're a weirdo like me, which I love winter's my time, most people in the wintertime are not going to be as energetic and as engaged and have as much get up and go as you would normally have in the summer. And that is by design, because the earth is going to go into hibernation mode. It's going to put everything around it into hibernation mode. Even animals and creatures who don't hibernate, you're going to feel more sluggish. And the reason why is because resources are limited. So if you're putting in all this effort and working really hard, chances are you're going to need more food, more water, more all of this. So by default, Mother Nature makes us slow down in the wintertime so that we don't take up too much of these resources that are actually not available to us during this time. So with all that being said, Beltane is the beginning of the work season, basically. This is the beginning of when you're going to start to work on your projects. So hopefully I gave you guys some good ideas of some of the things that you can do, some of the directions that you can start moving into during this Beltane, some ceremonies that you can do. So just take a look around your life right now and what do you need? And if you started that project in beginning of the year, you laid your foundation in Ostara and your foundation is laid now, maybe the work you do in Beltane is for fertility, right? Now you want your foundation is there. You want your project to grow. You want it to go gangbusters. And so that is the foundation you're going to lay during this Sabbath. So doing a fertility ceremony for your business or what have you would be a great option. Does anybody have any questions? We have more people here today. Yay, I like that. I like it when we have people. But while people type questions that they may or may not have, I want to remind you that tomorrow we are going to be doing our live. And I apologize because when we did a live last week, I did not get a chance to upload the live video into Instagram. And I am going to do that today. I'm thinking we're going to move our live a little bit earlier than we normally do it. But this week it's going to be the same. But starting next month, I'm probably going to try to do the live like around 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock, because then I think that works a little bit better for us. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, feel free to message me. You can join me in the Wild community and post a question there. You can post a question and reply to this video in whatever platform you're looking at, and I will be sure to take a peek. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a blessed Beltane to all. Bye-bye.